Okay. It's right there. Okay. I don't care. You want to sit over there? Yeah, you can sit with Patty. Everybody got to get their Patty time. She's not here all the time. Yeah. See, Holly, you can sit in my seat. Oh, I'm going to be up here with the microphone, and then Patty will be up here with my seat. There's Dan. Okay. Okay, are we on? All right, then you can play together. Okay, so now that we're rolling, I will officially call this meeting to order. I left the gavel in the car. I don't think I need one. There you go. There's somebody. There's Larry in the back. Maureen's going to give us our prayer. Miss Maureen, you want to come up? Don't keep the camera. Okay, you got it. Your hats.
Dear Lord, we want to give you all praise and glory today, and we ask you to bless this gathering of these wonderful patriots. So glad we had a great turnout. This is the 250th anniversary year, so we do want to thank you so much for making sure that we have a president that makes it doable. A lot of great things have been happening, but we still have a lot of fights on our hands, especially here in Virginia. So please give us courage, please give us strength and discernment to make sure we do what's good for all of us and to gently spread your word. If necessary, we can use words to do it by our actions and bring the rest of people into our fold to do the right thing, what's right for all Americans. We are the greatest country on earth. We're the strongest country on earth, and it's all because of us, the grassroots. And I was really pleased when I saw Speaker Johnson talking about some, not yet. We're still praying. We're still praying. We're praying for Johnson now. And Johnson specifically named Tea Party patriots and Scott Pressler by name and all our help and hard work that we do. So God is working. Everyone is in this room for a reason, not by accident. Let's join together in his glory and get this done. Amen.
Thank you. Maureen's always good for that. Thank you. Patty will give us our pledge. It's a great meeting. I am so happy to see so many great faces, many patriots in this room. I want to do a couple of quick housekeeping, and then I'm going to introduce our speaker. So, Teresa Langiel had called me and asked me to make this clarification regarding Convention of the States. Some people in this room may be supporting the Convention of the States. Everybody know what the Convention of the States is? Yeah, and if somebody doesn't, okay. In the Constitution, it's called the Article 5. It's Convention of States. That's where it is, where you can get so many states to agree to come together, and they can amend our Constitution. It has been done before. People are worried that it's going to be a runaway convention, whatever. I don't want to make a whole presentation about it tonight, but I just want just for transparency, I'm completely against it. But I want you to ask yourself some questions. If you want to support it, knock yourself out, because nobody gets to dictate who does what in this room. You do it yourself. If you want to support the Convention of the States, ask these questions. 3 questions. 1, who are the delegates that are going to be at this Convention of States, and who gets to pick them? That's a serious question. Any convention has delegates. It's like the National Republican Convention, the National Democrat Convention, any convention. number one, who are going to be the delegates at the convention of states? Because they've gotten over 20 states to agree, and none of them can tell us who the delegates are going to be. No one can tell us who's going to pick the delegates for these conventions of states, okay? That's number one question. Number two question, every convention has rules. Every convention has rules. What are the rules that they want? The proposed rules. Hey, we're pushing for a convention of the states. Here are the rules that are going to conduct this convention. No one can tell you the answer to that either. Trust me, I'm asking the question. Third question, most important, this is a really big question if you support convention of states. What are your proposed amendments to our Constitution? What exactly is the language that you want to propose at a convention of states? And the people that are pushing the convention of states will not answer those three questions for me. So I would only say to you, why are you supporting the convention of states if you are? So when you go to buy a house, when you go to buy a car, you know the language in the contract before you're going to get there. There's a deal on the table before you sign anything. You inspect the house. You know what's going on. You know the person that's selling you the house. You know the bank you're going to loan it, get your loan through. Okay, there's questions that you have answers before you engage in any of this stuff. We need to have some answers before we blow up our Constitution. That's all I'm saying. So that's housekeeping number one. Yes. We're not doing Q&A. I'm just making some statements. You can ask me questions later. I ain't the guest speaker. But I love you, Dan. I got 3 fingers too. So the second thing that I want to give you on housekeeping is we have an agenda in the Tea Party organization and our allied organizations that are with us. We have our referendum. We'll get an update on that later, but we have our own agenda. I want to encourage you to support any candidate you want to support. Okay, no dictatorship here. But to assimilate, and this is something that, was it you or Carol that told, one of you guys brought this up to me, that we have our own agenda of what our mission is and the projects we want to work on. That does not negate you from being able to support any candidate that you want and do however you want to do it with them. That's great. My point is, if a candidate, you need to value your labor, your volunteer, you need to value your votes. So if a candidate can't show up and ask you for support, if a candidate isn't really wanting to run, if a candidate doesn't pass the Tea Party smell test, every one of you know what a constitutional Christian conservative looks like. And if your candidates of choice do not match your principles and values, why are you volunteering for them? Value your votes like you value your money. Look at it just like that. You work hard for your money. You want it invested properly. That's why we got an issue with city council as it is. So just some folks, our board members have asked me to do a couple of quick cleanup clarifications. I want to get it out there in the beginning of the meeting. Value your vote and your labor like you value your money. Don't squander it with people that don't deserve it. Okay, that said, let's get to the good stuff. Patti is here. Patti Lyman, our National Republican Committee woman. And I'll tell you, I've known Patti, I think, since 2016. We became really good friends in 2017. When I first met her, I said, that woman's nuts. She's nuts. I don't know if anybody's going to be able to work with her. She's nuts. Have you read her Facebook post? She's awesome. And we became the best of friends. And she's going to give us an update on just about almost anything nationally happening, things that she knows that's going on in the state. And I couldn't be more thrilled to have her attend our meeting. And I couldn't be more thrilled to call her my friend, Miss Patti Lyman.
Thank you, Miss Wood. She's a pistol, isn't she? I'm gonna see if I can talk. Can you guys hear me if I don't have the mic?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, all right, I'll try. I'll try. I am so happy to be here tonight. I gotta tell you, it's been a long time since I've just kind of gone out and gone to an event and spoken about what's going on in the party. Because I don't know about y'all, but I tuckered myself out in 2025, especially the second half of it. We are one of only 2 states that has a huge election every single year without fail. We never have breathing room, but it's a delight to be here. I've always had it's my first Tea Party official meeting, but I've always had a real affinity for the Tea Party. How many of y'all were at that first big 2010 Tea Party thing they had at the Capitol in DC? I was there. That was an exciting time. Wow, I can't believe it's been 15 years since we did that. It was an exciting time. We had a lot of strength from the beginning, and you saw what the rhinos did to us. You saw how apoplectic they were by 2014. And I'm not talking about just the Democrats and Obama trying to shut down every Tea Party group there was and not letting the tax exempt status. I'm talking about the Republicans, some of which are still, barely breathing there in the Senate. But I'm sure we'll depart at some point. It's kind of like a consciousness optional situation there for some of them. But here we are, and I've always especially felt at home coming down to Virginia Beach, down to this area. I think I've told you before, my mama was born in Norfolk, and they moved to Leesburg when she was 2 years old. But my grandparents courted in Norfolk 100 years ago, literally 100 years ago. They courted in Norfolk, and I always mention this story. My grandmother would say to my grandfather, she'd say, "Oh, Jimmy, I long for you to take me dancing out at Buck Grove Beach." And that was the big thing. That was the big thing then. So this always is a sentimental place for me to come to. And I've got my little names for different parts of Virginia. I love the whole state. I represent the best state in the nation, by the way, and we're not the only ones that think that. When I'm at an event and somebody asks me, "Where are you from?" and I get to say Virginia, there's a flicker of recognition. There's an understanding of how special Virginia is. Everybody knows it. My colleagues at the RNC, they love their states. I'm sure they're nice places today. None of them Virginia. None of them. And I got to tell you, I'm sure you guys have seen it. You know what our slogan is for Virginia for the 250th anniversary of America, don't you? No, it says, it's America made in Virginia. Obviously I didn't make it up, but I love that slogan because it's true. It's absolutely true. So very happy to be here. Very happy that Waverly invited me and that I'm getting out again to be able to be at the unit. I'm going to start by giving you a little bit of update on the RNC. There's not a whole lot to tell you. I have to say, being on the RNC is very different when we don't have the White House, because then the RNC is the only single entity speaking for the party. If we don't have the White House, if we're the minority party, we were able to raise a lot of cane during my first term there. We were able to do a lot of stuff. I was very happy to be the person that wrote the first draft of the resolution that essentially kicked Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger out the party. That was fun. That was fun. I was able to lead the way on a resolution to demand that the Chinese government make restitution to Americans who lost their lives and lost family members during the COVID. I was able to focus on how important it is for America to continue to fight communism do things like make sure that the CCP doesn't take over Taiwan. Because let me tell you something, if the CCP takes over Taiwan, there's a big American interest there because all of the chips that we use and the stuff we use every day, it's all made in Taiwan. So there were a lot of things that we were able to do to make a statement. I think the people in the Republican Party want to know what we stand for. They're hungry to know what we stand for. We will no longer stand for vague promises, okay, especially the people in this room. So during my first term, we were able to make a lot of bold statements. It's different now. Now that we have the president in the White House, and imperfect as he is, I thank God every day that Kamala Harris is not our president. Every single day, every day. Oh, oh my gosh! Don't even start. Don't get me started on that. Don't get me started. So we have the president in the White House, and the messaging for our party has to come from the president. So there's a lot of things that I'd like to be doing on the RNC. I'm a member of the resolutions committee. A lot of policy things we'd like to be speaking on, but we have to take that from the White House. The White House has to dictate that. And you know what? It's a relatively small price to pay. I will tell you though, we do continue to do what rabble rousing we can do there. We had the winter meeting in January. It was in California, and the hotel they picked was $350 a night for the hotel. Can't do that. Obviously, the people picking the hotel don't pay for their own expenses. But I was able to use the last Marriott point, all of them. And I stayed like a mile away, took the Uber, and everything was okay. I'm not spending a night. But we're all gathered out there in Santa Barbara. And some individuals wanted to put a rule in place at the RNC that would have taken away a tremendous amount of power from the members like us. We are elected by grassroots Republicans. I have some colleagues at the RNC who think that they represent the RNC to the grassroots people who voted for them. No, they've got it wrong. I represent you to the Republican National Committee, which is what all of us should be doing. So the powers that be wanted to put through this rule change that would have really silenced us in many ways. And you know, there's a feeling there like we're in charge, president's in the White House, you're gonna do what we say. The president controls the Republican National Committee at this point, and again, rightly so, just like during the campaign he did, and rightly so, he's the leader of our party. But they wanted to put this rule change through. And how many of you guys know or have been able to meet Morton Blackwell, our national committee man, our national treasure? Morton is almost he's in his 10th term as RNC National Committee man. He is the most respected individual on the whole 168 RNC members. Without a doubt, he is. So he kind of, in a very polite way, he asked a couple of pointed questions about it. A couple of people had questions. And the people advancing it just said, well, this is how we have to do it. And this is, we're going to put this through, kind of like that. Well, after the meeting, a few people were kind of hanging around talking to Morton. Morton was just kind of holding court there. And Morton is the rules guru, by the way. He is the rules guru at the RNC. People start asking questions. Well, the afternoon goes on, and more people are asking other people questions. Hey, I don't like this. Why are they trying to put this rule through? Why are they pressuring us so much? Blah, blah, blah. Morton just answered questions. Everything was fine. And a little rumble started. A little rumble, quiet rumble was going on. Well, by the next morning, the powers that be withdrew that rule change. They withdrew it. They weren't even voting on it. Okay. And it all started because Morton had a couple of questions, and he has credibility, and he's respected. And what I have learned in my years on the RNC is when a few conservatives get together and push and don't back down, we find out that indeed the tail can wag the dog. And that is what happened again. So Morton at age 86 is still making things happen at the RNC. And I wanted to share that. Yeah, he's awesome. He's fantastic. And I am very proud to be his counterpart. I shall never be his peer, ever. But I'm honored to be his counterpart. Another thing that happened at the RNC is that the president really wants to have a midterm convention. He wants to have a convention this summer in either July or August. Now, it's not going to be a convention in that we're not going to conduct business. There's not going to be delegate votes. There's not going to be actual party business transacted, but they want it to be a focal point for people to understand what the president and this administration have accomplished and what's at stake in the upcoming midterm elections. I mean, if the president wants to do it, we're going to get behind it and we're going to do it. It could be a net plus. I don't know. We've never done it before. But he's happy to change things up every once in a while, and I kind of like that about him. But they're going to be picking representatives from each state. I don't know how that's going to happen, but that's a big event that will take place this summer. And whether you end up going to an event like that, it doesn't matter. What matters is that when we identify the candidates that we want to support, and different people in the room may identify different candidates, what you need to understand is your participation matters. What really, really matters is what you do on the ground. And it matters when you do it. And when candidates don't earn that kind of support, that matters too. And we see a difference. And so I just want to encourage everyone, if there's one message I want to get across to everybody here, is that you are extremely important, not only in protecting Virginia, but in protecting our country. This year, it's a very, 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 very big year. I want to talk a little bit about the elections in 2025. As I said to you, I wasn't out speaking very much at events like this and just talking about day-to-day stuff, because I was doing everything I possibly could to support our candidates and support our ticket. I'm going to be very frank with you tonight and say that some people come to me and say, well, why didn't the RNC give more money? Why didn't these give more money? Why didn't these give more money? The entire country watched the head Republican in Virginia not give 1 penny out of his pocket to this ticket. Not one. What kind of message do you think that sent to national donors and national groups? What message did it send out? Well, the message it sent out was that the head of our party had decided that the ticket was a loser and people shouldn't support it. And you know what? I don't think that's too good of a position for the head of our party, for our governor to take. It means something to be part of a party. And it means that if you're part of a party, you support the nominees, especially since our governor is the one that forced 2 out of the 3 nominees essentially onto the ticket. Nobody else was able to get enough signatures to get on the ticket. Then the person, our rightful nominee as lieutenant governor, then the governor sabotaged our rightful nominee and tried to pressure him out to quit the race. And I tell you something right now, I'm as conservative as anybody. I'm a Bible believing Christian. But I am dedicated to supporting our rightful nominee. And John Reed is conservative on every issue that we still have a vote on in this country. Every single issue. Solid conservative. when I saw what took place in April, let's just put it this way. I moved into action. I hit Facebook that day saying that I unequivocally supported John Reed. I said it everywhere I could. Everywhere he was going to be, I made sure I was there. He said he felt like at times he needed to get a restraining order, like he was being stopped, because I kept showing up. But I would be darned if I was going to have that man work his heart out all over the state and not have a statewide party official there with him, backing him up at every opportunity. And that's what I did. No, we only have 3 statewide party officials. We have Morton, we have me, and we have our party chair. I'm going to talk about party chair in just a minute. When Rich left, and I was very happy when Rich became Assistant Secretary of the Air Force, he's doing a great job. He loves it. Well, Governor Youngkin said, you will have Mark Peake as your chair. We had someone run against him, but it was a done deal. This is going to be your chair. I like Mark. I work very well with Mark, but Mark's a state senator. Mark runs a law firm. Mark's really busy, but the governor said, you have to do this. So he was put in kind of an impossible position. I don't blame him really at all for anything that took place. But I do think it was good that he decided to step down, because he's going to focus on keeping the Senate seat and fighting in the Senate right now, which he's doing beautifully. So that took place. We went through this year. I will always be grateful for people who stuck their necks out. It was a very, very difficult ticket to support at times. It was. But all I kept thinking about is Abigail Spanberger and Ghazala Hashmi and Jay Jones. And I said, no, that's unthinkable. When I look at, we got to move beyond what if to what is. And once we had our nominees, that was a no-brainer. It was not hard at all for me to support those people and to fight against the people on the other side of the ticket. There was a lot of analysis that's been done, but I want to point out a couple things. I thought from the beginning, and I was happy to support the whole ticket with all my heart and soul, because we had to. We didn't have any other choice. There wasn't any plan B, y'all. There was no plan B. We're living through that right now. But I thought from the beginning, John Reed, he had a winning conservative message that he took all over this state. I mean, he was everywhere. He went to the southwest part of Virginia 26 times. Oh yeah. I mean, when he would go places and people would meet him, they loved him. He just was a fantastic candidate in so many ways. And I said, he's going to be the star of the ticket. Well, Governor Youngkin was very angry when John Reed didn't drop out of the race. So Governor Youngkin could put his choice in as lieutenant governor. He was very angry. And so consequently, a whole lot of people were afraid to give money to John Reed, afraid of repercussions. So John got starved of money. He ended up raising about 1.8 million. But do you know that he got 52,000 more votes than Winsome Sears, who blew through $34 million? John Reed spent something like 92 cents per vote. It was just unheard of. He was just amazing. Yes, ma'am. I know that you did. Bravo. And you know what? And John knows that you did too. And he's very grateful. And his podcast has really taken off. He's doing really well. I encourage everyone to listen to it. And he's going to be fine. But he was a real star. Let me tell you something else interesting. Jason, who I actually think Jason was a pretty good attorney general. I mean, that's just all I'm going to say. I think he's a pretty good attorney general. Well, let me explain something. We as Republicans, we're always complaining about being outspent. Do you know that Jason spent $10.5 million more than Jay Jones? Jason had more money than Jay Jones. I'm glad he did. And he had the Jay Jones scandal, but he still wasn't able to win his hometown of Virginia Beach. That's not a knock on Jason. I'm just saying was a very different kind of election. Very, very different kind of election than anything else we've ever had. No one anticipated that we would have the outcome that we did. And we are suffering now. And there are people in this state who, because of this election, will be suffering way worse than the people in this room. Okay, we'll suffer, but there'll be a lot of Virginians that suffer a whole lot worse. And that's why I always say that as pathetic as we can be as a party at times, and we can talk about that, as pathetic as we can be, we are still the only thing standing between our friends and neighbors and the Democrats who've proven for decades that they are hell-bent on destroying the lives of regular people. We're it. We're the thin red line, and our thin red line failed this time in 2025, and innocent people will suffer because of that. But let me tell you what I said when I was at the RNC and I saw people. Everyone was watching Virginia. Everyone was hopeful because you have no idea the positive effect that we had nationally after we won in 2020. You have no idea. It was amazing. And then they were hopeful, and then they saw what happened. But they know we tried. They know the challenges we had. But I said to them, we have suffered a defeat, but we are not defeated in Virginia. We are not defeated here. Thank you so much. Yeah, I was there. Oh, that's probably a good idea for later. But we are not defeated. Y'all, we cannot give up on Virginia. There is no other state in the union like Virginia. And we have got to rise up here and build, starting with where we are, and build what we can build. In my view, the Republican Party only survives as a bottom-up party. We've got to be a bottom-up party. Part of the reason that we won in 2021 is that, Glenn Youngkin never planned to get involved in the culture wars. He didn't plan to get worked up about, rapes in schools and things like that. He didn't ever plan to do that. But when parents got active about CRT, about other things, about the scandal in Loudoun, when they got active, Glenn Youngkin had the savvy to respond to it and to go where the fight was and to go where the voters were. The voters took him where he didn't want to go, but where he needed to go in order to win. And we have got to be a bottom-up party. For the last 5 years, I'm sorry. Oh, I know. Don't even get me going on that. Don't. You're 100% correct. And I will, it's really easy to take pot shots at RPB. They get me mad too, believe me. And I don't run RPB, by the way. I don't. I do whatever they ask me to do, but I don't run RPB. I don't want any part of doing that. But one person for the last 5 years has controlled the state Republican Party in Virginia. One person. And he just left office last month. Glenn Youngkin controlled the state party and controlled it, in my view, in a top-down fashion, and it didn't work. I was so happy that we won in 2021, and after that, we kept losing. And we kept losing, and we kept losing. And I think that the grassroots at the most local level felt disregarded, felt ignored and felt that it didn't matter what the party stood for anymore. It mattered what, in any given moment, somebody thought would be necessary in order to have the next win. Well, it didn't work. It didn't work, and we ended up with the party discouraged and feeling defeated. It's been an interesting couple of months going through this process. Mark Peake stepped down, which I think is the right thing. Then we went into this new, we have to get a new chair for RPV. Well, you have to understand, in every election, we are always limited by who's willing to run. Okay? Every election, that's the case. Who's willing to run? We started out with several candidates. A couple of them dropped out. I personally adore Cameron Hamilton. I was very disappointed when he chose to drop out, but that was the right thing for him. I respect him. And we were at a point where we had three candidates. We had three candidates running. We had Jeff Ryer, Nicholas Profit, and Mike Clancy. I think you all know Nicholas. He's been the chair of Chesapeake a number of years. Mike Clancy ran for Congress in the 10th District in 2024, longtime general counsel at Oracle Corporation, another fellow lawyer. Don't hold that against him, okay? We're not all bad. But that's what we came down to. We came down to those three people. And it's pretty open that for the last 5 years that I've been on State Central Committee, Jeff Ryer and I have been nemesis of each other for 5 years on the opposite side of every issue and every vote that ever came up. I mean, everyone was aware of that. But we got to a point and I said, you know what? My favorite candidate's not here. I'm not happy with any of these candidates. They all have problems. So my vote can't be based on who do I like the most? Who do I think will do this? Who has always done the right thing? My vote couldn't be about that. My vote became about we have to save this party in order to save the state. Remember, the Republicans are the only thing standing in between the Democrats and the people they want to destroy. If we have any chance whatsoever of building up out of the ashes and winning and trying to protect our state, I had to look at it and say, who has the capability to do that? I hope they're inclined to do it. I hope they're inclined to do it in a fair way. I hope they're inclined to do it the way that I would want them to do it. But putting that aside, who has the raw material and the experience and the knowledge to do it? That's the question that I felt as a conservative, as a Christian, and as a representative of grassroots Republicans. That was my job. I had to simply analyze that. And y'all, I came to the conclusion that my arch nemesis of the last 5 years was the only person that had the tools and the ability to have a chance to resurrect this party. And I'm very happy that I voted for him. And I'm very happy that Jeff Ryer got elected. And you can hear right from my heart, I want you to understand that. I think we elected, of the three, we elected the person best capable of having a small chance to resurrect what we can resurrect. And that's one of the, it's a tough thing. It was tough this past year when I came out and very, very strongly supported John Reed as strongly as I possibly could for lieutenant governor. I had a lot of my political base get mad at me and say I wasn't Christian anymore. And they turned into the Harper Valley PTA. And I mean, it was a little rough there for a while, wasn't it? Yeah, it was a little rough, but I knew, given the choices that we had, I knew what the right thing to do was, and I did it. And that's how I feel about this chair election. I will tell you, our new chairman, Jeff Ryer, he gave a good interview the other day with Steve Bannon, and he talked about the ways that we had failed to engage the most important people in our party, which are the people at the unit level. And he said, the people who didn't show up to vote, they didn't fail us, we failed them. That's what he said on national television. We failed them. He wants to utilize everybody, not just to hand out pamphlets, not just to door knock. He wants to utilize people at the grassroots level, first of all, to look at who voted in 2024 and then who was missing in 2025. That's several 100,000 people. He wants to utilize the units to one by one identify those people, try to identify them, reach out to them, touch them person to person, neighbor to neighbor, and do that across the state to identify the people that we missed in 2025. He's ready to undertake that. He is focused like a laser beam on this referendum that is currently still scheduled for April the 21st. But at this point, there is an injunction that was issued against the referendum. I don't know how you have a statewide referendum everywhere but Tazewell. I don't think you can. So it was a very, very strong legal opinion saying why what the Democrats are trying to do this year is unconstitutional. Very strong argument, very strong decision. And the Virginia Supreme Court, probably any day now, is going to make a decision as to whether they're going to uphold that injunction statewide. If they do, there will not be any redistricting referendum in 2026. Now, it very likely, it'll just delay it. It's not going to stop it forever. We're going to have to come up with some other arguments to stop it the next time. But this would delay it, and it would delay it long enough that we could still have a chance to keep our House majority and not have our president impeached, along with anybody else in his cabinet. I mean, if Hakeem Jeffries, God forbid, becomes the Speaker of the House, the impeachment craze is going to start and not stop the whole time. They'll take out every good judge President Trump had. They'll do that. So if we're able to stop this redistricting referendum from taking place and postpone it for 2 years, that's huge. That's a very, very big thing. But I do want you to know that plans and preparations are being made right now to fight this referendum. God forbid that it does go through. Those plans are being made right now. RPB has kind of joined forces with a nonprofit C4 that was formed to try to fund this effort. I don't know a lot about it yet. I'm going to be getting on an executive committee call when I'm done here. And I don't know yet. The jury's out on this C4. But I'll tell you, in the 5th district, they are already raising money and putting plans together to fight this thing with everything they have. They're doing it in the 6th district. And you know what? I think the best efforts start at the grassroots anyway. So if somebody wants to give to a C4, that's perfectly fine. But the real grassroots people are already fighting back on this. Don't get too worked up yet about why don't we have commercials on telling people to vote no, because we don't know if there's going to be a referendum. We'll know soon. We'll know within the next. But I would encourage you at the unit level, at the district level, to start talking this up and explain to people, especially if they're Trump voters, explain. You want to stop, God bless you. You want to stop Trump from being impeached? You want to stop good judges from being impeached? Vote no on this. Vote against the redistricting. Find out what someone's hot button is and then address that. But, and you know, as crazy as this last year has been, I didn't think that the time would come anytime soon when I would tell you that I feel hopeful about what our party here in Virginia can do and the value that we can be to our fellow citizens if we put forward our best effort for the good of everyone else in this state. I didn't think there'd be a time I would stand here and be hopeful, but after what we've gone through and after the election of our new chair, who I do believe with everything in his heart and soul wants this party to succeed and wants Virginia to succeed, I feel extremely hopeful. I'm going to be supportive of him. When he does stuff wrong, I'm going to push back on him. He's used to it, believe me, from me. But I feel hopeful that there's a role for all of us in saving this state and saving this country. I don't know how it's all going to end up in the end. I have no idea. I just know that when this journey is over, I just want to be found safe. Thank you.
Got my direct.
Oh,
Pat,
yeah.
so Pat, let me just say this. I appreciate the ability to just go head on. Go at me on social media. But the one thing I want to say is I agree with you about coffee, and I trust your judgment on the. I sort of want to have to do your name on Facebook. My point is, what you say, grassroots are the reason. And we were part of the reason when we felt young and realized what's important. But our new chair needs to put out to the grassroots, because we're not getting from our or the second district. What you said about touching all those people that didn't vote, he should have brought that. I watched the John Green podcast that he was on there. He didn't come across like he was a ball player.
Well,
But-
he's not,
No, but what I'm saying,
not all of us can be.
no, but I'm saying, we don't get the way that plays that. That's important.
Yeah,
It's really important. So. Here's my other question. My other question is, it's amazing that the arms has been fun. And it's hard to- So my question is, how did they do that?
How did the RMC raise the money? They worked really, really hard at it. A good chair, Casey Crosby, who does a great deal of work with, because they're able to connect with people and understand what is at stake in this country. The people that give money to the Republican Party or for the conservative candidate, I think most of them do it because it really matters to them. That's not why they do it. But they get a lot of money. By the way, I've got to tell you something. Prior to this vote for chair, okay, I just have to tell you. It was gonna snow. The vote was supposed to be January 31st. And we had a executive committee meeting prior to that, talking about, and the acting chair at that time, wanted to have an electronic vote and a virtual meeting to elect our chair. And to make a long story short, I mean, pretty overwhelmingly, the executive committee did not want to do that because our grassroots people don't trust that. And you can't have any monitoring in electronic voting. You don't have candidates watching votes being counted. You don't have anything like that. So we were going to have a couple of people, running the electronic voting. And some of those people had already been out whipping votes for one candidate. They'd already been out doing that, but they were going to run this thing and not have any transparency. So I made my feelings known in a non-diplomatic way to the people doing this. And then I posted on Facebook that this is what the new plan was. Suddenly, so we voted, we didn't want to do that. Then they said, okay, we'll have an enrichment Saturday in person. And suddenly Friday afternoon, it's, no, we think it's gonna snow, so it's gonna be electronic and it's gonna be virtual. That's it. And I gave my choice words, and then I put up a post about the plan to have no monitoring, no transparency, no nothing to elect our chair. Well, a little rumbling started. And by the next day, we immediately after the meeting started, there was a motion to adjourn the meeting until the following Saturday in person in Richmond to vote for our new chair. And that vote won 2/3 to 1/3. Okay. So the person who was going to force the electronic vote was completely repudiated. And we took a very, very strong stand that no, that's not what we're doing. We're not going to put a chair in and then have people never trust whether the election was fair. So, and then we did do a fair election in person, but I wanted to tell you guys. And Dan, I will tell you, I mean, Jeff has been chair for 5 days now. And I know Monday he had a root canal, literally. So he had a figurative root canal when he had to go through the election for chair. Then he had a real root canal on Monday. And he was on Bannon and he was on with John Reed. But he laid out plans when he gave his speech, and he will be communicating that. And we're having this emergency meeting tonight because we've got action items we have to work on. He's going to have more frequent meetings. He's doing a bunch of stuff. So believe me, he has a very, very different approach than what we've been allowed to have to the state party for the last 5 years when it's been, controlled with an iron fist from the top down. I'm hopeful.
Yeah, okay. Well, first of all, there it goes. Okay. I got disgusted with the Republican Party in 1996 when the Republican Party showed John McCain down. Super rhino. He didn't belong to the Republican Party.
What about Bob Dole? No, 2008 was John McCain.
Okay, well, Bob Dole
What?
Bob Dole was just a fan.
I got you. Anyway, go ahead.
Bob Dole and John McCain, yes, both of them. Horrible candidates. They were both too old to be bothering because they didn't campaign well, and they shouldn't have been there. So I haven't given a nickel to the Republican Party since then, because I refuse to waste my money, especially Virginia, because I haven't seen a Republican Party support a grassroots candidate in years, with the exception of our current president's second run for office, or third run for office, or the second one, he got screwed over that one. But the last time, last year and a half, the Republican Party finally supported him, and he won with a landslide. So what can we do that, I know Waverly's talked about this too, somehow we got to take back the local party. But they're, like you said, they're not giving up power easily, small as it might be for Virginia Party.
Oh, in Virginia Beach, I'm very familiar with it. It's horrendous. Yeah, well, I get it. I've been on State Central with Dennis for 5 years. I get it. By the way, I will mention to you, I volunteered full time for the Ollie North for Senate campaign in 1994, and then the establishment and RPD and John Warner screwed him over. They decided they wanted to help Chuck Robb get elected rather than support a conservative they couldn't control. So they wouldn't support our nominee. I left the organized Republican Party in 1994. I kept voting Republican. I was a conservative activist. I kept doing all that until a force of nature named Donald Trump brought me back into the party in 2015. And y'all, 5 years later, I was a national committee woman. How about that? We need to latch on. We need to latch on at the local level, do what we need to do. My husband and I are not rich, but I gave a significant amount of money to John Reed. John Reed did not win, but I know that every dollar I gave to him got stretched to the max and was used honorably. And there are more candidates like
I'm next. I could ask.
Yes.
I could ask a really, long question, but the number one problem in Virginia Beach, and that's what we know most about, is that the majority of Republicans in Virginia Beach in the actual election elected a chair of the Republican Party. I'm sure you're aware of that. And they turned around and got rid of her. Not only did they do that, but they ran a shadow Republican Party around her. That told a lot of people, including myself, that they really don't care what I think. They're asking for a vote? No.
That is the message that has been sent from the top for a number of years. And I know that atrocity, as well as shutting down Suffolk, as well as kicking out longtime leaders out of the 5th district, I know where that was driven from, and that was driven from the top. That person, well, no, I understand that. That person is gone now. And we have an opportunity to do the right thing in this party. And you know what? A priest told me, my friend, Father Frank Pavone, he started Priest for Life. He told me 30 years ago, Patti, even God can't change the past. We got to go from where we are right now and try to set it right. And I get it. I know what they did to your chair. And I was raising Cain in the front of the state central committee about it. So, Well, I think you get to elect a new chair this year. I think that's a start. And I don't think this jihad against conservatives, I'm very hopeful that this jihad against conservatives that was driven pretty much from one point, I do believe we're turning a corner on that. Because I think the people that have been abusive to conservatives understand now how much that costs.
Yes, ma'am. This on? This on? Oh, yeah, okay, good. Mr. Chang mentioned that the Republican Party of Virginia has $100 million.
No, the RNC.
Of the Republican National Committee.
Yes.
Okay, that's a big chunk of change.
Yeah.
I remember Dan Gage. Do you remember the one-legged
Yeah, I remember him.
candidate for Senate? Great guy, a great American. He told me, and I'm sure he told other people maybe in this room, that when he got the nomination for Senate, he never even got a phone call of congratulations, and he didn't get one penny from the Republican Party of Virginia, not one penny. Now, I hope I'm remembering what he told me exactly right. Where's this $100 million going to go to? Do you think any of it will go to candidates?
A lot of it ends up going to candidates. There are limitations in terms of the Republican National Committee is a federal PAC, if you will, and there are limitations on what they can do in state elections. I will tell you, the Republican National Committee devoted a significant amount of resources to Virginia in 2025. And my understanding is that we got more resources than New Jersey did in 2025. Yeah, they do raise funds and give money to candidates. But like any large donor, they look and they see, what are we doing in our state? I don't know where we got to the point that whenever we have a problem here, the first thing people say is, well, how much money is the RNC going to give us to fix it? No, how much money and how much time and effort are we going to put into it in our state? Remember last year, we had, a message was sent out on a very loud megaphone, don't invest money in our ticket. Okay? I'm sorry, but that's the way it was. And we need to show how committed we are to saving our state. I don't know what happened with Dan Gade. I find it hard to believe that he got no money from I have no idea. I wasn't there. I don't know. I remember when he ran. He didn't like the president. didn't want to be associated with the president. I remember that very, very well. And I don't know that that helped him. I don't know that that helped him. But of course, that was a crazy year, and it was, it was a stolen election, and all this cheating. I don't know. I don't know what the real votes were. I have no
Nobody
idea.
does.
I liked him. I supported him as a nominee. Yes, sir.
So this is. That's like some.
I can hear you.
Have to hold it up to your mouth.
My question is, was the election stolen in your perspective? And from the top down? That's what our question is. And if it was, what's the accountability? What's being done about it? Nobody wants to vote anymore because of this. That's why nobody wants to vote. That's why nobody wants to get any more money because we what's happening.
I'm very happy to answer that question. Yes, I do believe the 2020 election was stolen, and we're finding out. I mean, just in Georgia, they just took possession of those ballots there. And I look back at our attorney general at the time. Oh, wait, you think the 20, no, okay. I don't have any evidence that the Spamberger election was stolen. I don't. I'm not saying it wasn't, but I don't have any evidence that the Spamberger election was stolen. Well, I'm not saying that it can't be, but I don't have any evidence of it. What? I have to be honest with you, I'm not too educated in terms of the machines. I'm just not. I'm just not. No, I think the 2020 election was stolen, absolutely. And by the way, in terms of accountability, it's taken a long time, but I do believe we are getting some accountability for that 2020 election. And it's important that people actually know the truth about it, because people got sent to jail and prosecuted for questioning that election. And it's going to become very clear very quickly that it was stolen. I don't know that about the Spamberger election. I mean, it was pretty darn lopsided. And to be honest with you, the campaigns were not what I had hoped that they would be. Let's put it that way.
Almost impossible, if not totally impossible, to steal an election this.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's I don't have the evidence that it was. Oh, I believe it. And by the way, I think the reason that our director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was down in Georgia when they were collecting ballots is that there's evidence of international interference in our 2020 election.
Make his name.
My question is, I realize the campaign, but how much do you feel that the Northern Virginia, 99, that we're a large part of the military, that just the whirlwind of knowledge, getting rid of government workers and trying to put jobs getting lost, how much did you feel that part of it? Because there was a lot of.
It's obvious. I question whether the people that decided because they didn't like Doge that they would vote for the Democrats. I don't know how many of those people were ever planning to vote Republican, even if the Doge cuts hadn't happened. I can't quantify that, but I have serious doubts. For the most part, government employees don't vote Republican for the most part.
And it pushed them out.
Well, it made them mad. And I will tell you, speaking of Northern Virginia, and that's where I'm from, People's Republic of Fairfax, I'm sure you've heard of it.
Yeah.
The real Virginia can outvote Northern Virginia. We proved it in 2021 that we can outvote the blue parts of this state. We can, but we've got to have supernatural turnout, which is like what we had in 2021. And that supernatural turnout in conservative areas got killed in 2024 for reasons I'm not going to go into now, but everybody saw what happened. And so the president didn't end up having a chance to win the state, nor did Hunt Cow have a chance to win the Senate because turnout got really depressed. And then again in 2025, for a lot of reasons, that turnout just didn't materialize. But we can outvote Northern Virginia. We absolutely can. Yes, Daphne. I am going to plead complete ignorance on that subject. I have no idea. Our election official over here might know far better than I. Yeah. Yeah.
They're saying very high roll in the middle of the wee hours of the morning, two people are responsible to drive together, one behind the other, to deliver them to a safe house somewhere. And all the ballots are retained by state election officials. The registrar of the state has every ballot going back to them. That's what I think. I think they retained them indefinitely. You can't, but somebody who has, yes, it can be done. It can be done by the appropriate party official. No, they're not held by anyone but us.
We
They're
looked
held
at the
in
ballots
secure
when there was a conflict in the election. Remember John Moss and other ones? We had to go count them because the votes were too close. We actually counted the physical. Yeah, there were 3 candidates. I mean, 3 elections. We had to count all those ballots. I was there. Counted every vote.
Okay. Oh, that's nice. The hamburger recall stuff that's not. We should have been there last year. That's when we should have been working on this hamburger recall. What we need to do, but we have a lot of things we're going to be fighting. Jeff's plan, our new chair, his plan to have the strength and the power and the momentum being from the bottom up to facilitate for unit chairs exactly everything that the unit can be doing and having checklists and having progress marks and stuff like that. Unit chairs don't get a lot of guidance, unfortunately. I think we will be getting communications like that, and they will come from your local unit. And I understand your local unit is, I understand that, but when for people in normal units, then they can get that information from them. I heard a little bit about it. I heard it was the most massive, Lee Sullivan is the administrator of the EPA for everyone. He said it is the most massive environmental deregulation in the history of the nation. That's what they said it was. I don't know any more details.
So how cool is that? And that's going to come down here and give you first-hand knowledge. It's good to know people in high places. That's all I can tell you. And speaking of the party, and we're going to do a couple of announcements here, and then we'll do a brief permission and get to our business meeting. So you talked about Norfolk. They have 10 people that show up to a meeting. Okay. Yeah. No, they have 10 people. Right. Buchanan County, Virginia. They don't even have 10 people that show up to a meeting. There's a bigger problem here, and Patty talked about it. It's the assault on conservatives and the elected officials that participated in that assault. And Virginia Beach is rampant, and our highest ranking elected official participated in that in the second congressional district. And it is shameful. It is shameful. And that very person expects you to suck it up, Buttercup, volunteer for their campaigns, and vote for them. The message is very conflicting. And that's what Patty talked about. And that's what you're saying. That's what each one of you are saying. You're tired of the power play that the elected officials have. And I'll tell you